Hamjambo, this is Ruth Kamau, and welcome to Wasafiri Africa, where we celebrate Africa and things African. Worcester, a town in the Western Cape, South Africa, began life as a hunting ground teeming with game and was originally home to the Khoi and San people. Folk driving to or from Johannesburg and Cape Town will breeze through this quaint town, now renowned for the fine wine grown in the region. Like many towns in South Africa, remnants of the country's torrid history, such as a slave bell in the market square, can be found. Yet embraced by spectacular mountains on all 4 points of a compass, a pit stop in Worcester begs an overnight stay. Twendeni, Africa is ready. David Kramer is a prolific librettist who started his life in 4th Street in a quiet suburb in Worcester, Western Cape, South Africa. Born to a father who was a furniture salesman and a stay-at-home mum, David Kramer was a good student in maths and sciences, even though he's quick to add that he was never really keen on those subjects. Work life began in the Hextex textile factory, where he floated in the different departments learning the ins and outs of textile manufacturing. David chuckles as he tells this story, claiming he didn't contribute much, but guess what? The little that he did earned him a bursary to Leeds University in the United Kingdom, and a whole new world awaited. Student life in Leeds was a kaleidoscope of colour, where in between the studying, concerts by legends such as Paul McCartney, Elton John and Rod Stewart performed in the refectory for 50p. Fast forward to 1987, and David Kramer, with his good friend, the late Talib Peterson, started a 20-year collaboration with their first musical, District 6. So let's get going on this magic carpet ride of a genius composer, lyricist and musician. Twendeni, Africa is ready. Good morning, David.
Good morning, Ruth.
How are you today?
Very well. Happy to be here. Thank you.
I'm even happier to have you here because, I came to Cape Town in 2006 when I came to start this business, which we were talking about shortly, just telling you my story. And I love going to theatre. And the very first production that I watched of yours was Cat and the Kings. And my children and I were enthralled. And we watched it so many times, and I just felt like I had missed out on everything. And I wanted to meet you from that time on. But what struck me was as very interesting was, as I mentioned to you, the first day we had a conversation at the Baxter, I had seen you sitting at one of the couches on the patio, and somebody had whispered to me, "That's a very well-known composer, musician. He writes plays." And I was like, oh my gosh, why am I whispering? I don't know why I whispered, because I think it's because I said somebody whispered. And you were quietly there. I saw you 2 times, and 1 or 2 times you jotted something. But you were always quiet, and then you'd leave just as quietly as you came. So I because of watching your other musicals since then, I always wanted to have a conversation with you. And so I want to thank you again for coming on to this podcast to talk about your life and your wonderful experiences.
Well, thanks for asking me. It's a pleasure to be here.
Thank you. So let's go back to Worcester and growing up in Worcester.
Yes, okay. So I was born in the 1950s. Apartheid was just, had come into being. So I grew up with apartheid. And went to a whites-only school and lived in the whites-only side of town. The town was divided racially into most of the town was for whites only. Across one of the streets, which was called Durban Street, lived the coloured community or the brown community. And outside of the town, a few kilometres outside of town, was where the black community lived, in a township called Zwelithemba. So I went to school there. And, at first, of course, as a child, you accept this as being normal. But when I became a teenager, I started to realize that it wasn't, that something was different, something wasn't right, but I couldn't actually articulate that or identify what it was. It was only later when I left South Africa and went to university in Leeds, England, that I was able to read the books that would have been banned in South Africa, and to get a more insight and a better understanding of the true history of South Africa, rather than the propaganda I had been taught.
Yeah. And so we talked about the fact that even before you went to Leeds, that you had there was the conscription into the army.
Yes, after school, the young white men, had to go and do military service, and there was, either you did it, or you refused to do it, and you were sent to an army prison, or you went into exile to escape that. And I thought to myself, I'd rather just, go and do the 1 year training and hopefully get it done with and over with. As I was also telling you, this was before the insurrection in the townships had started, and before we knew about the war on the border of Angola, and before young soldiers were being sent up there to fight a secret war, actually. Anyway, that was I was in the military before that time, so I didn't have to really grapple with those issues. But that came later.
Yeah, it was good to have that conversation, while we were having some toast and tea, because, I every time I get to, it's not often, obviously, but the times that I've had to speak to somebody about that, it agitates them. And I can see even with you, it's not a part of your history that you enjoy recalling.
No one is, absolutely. I mean, I feel it was a complete waste of a year for me.
Yeah.
I felt like a jail sentence, actually, for me. Other people didn't feel the same way. But yes, I hated the experience, and one feels embarrassed to admit that you were part of the military service that was part of the apartheid government at that time.
And then there you go. So you said you were floating in and out of this textile company, not really contributing much. But David, I have to disagree with you and say you must have contributed something. You must have shown your smarts, because they put their money behind you by sending you to Leeds.
Well, yes, I was very fortunate to get that bursary and send me to Leeds, which was really the best. I mean, I didn't get much of a textile education, but the real education was just, firstly, in music, to see all of those wonderful artists performing. And it was an opportunity for me to start performing as well. I started to sing at the University Folk Club, and then I started to sing at folk clubs in the city. And I started writing my own songs.
So it was at Leeds University that you started to write?
Yes.
I wondered about that, because I thought to myself, because you explained that, in the refectory where you first saw Paul McCartney, they were like 10 meters away from you.
Yes.
And they were starting out their careers.
Yes.
And there you are getting to these people who would be legends. I mean, Paul McCartney was already somebody, because the Beatles had broken up.
Yes. So he was my childhood hero.
Yeah.
The Beatles were of those, the Rolling Stones, the Beatles, and those people who were a huge influence on me when I was learning to play the guitar. And I was in a band, and we would copy their songs and, perform their songs. Never did I ever think that I would see him in real life.
Wow.
And then when I got to Leeds, I think they'd broken up in that year, 1970. I got there in 71. And then, of course, Sir Paul's I'm not sure exactly when they broke up, but Paul arrived, I think it must have been 1972, 73, with this new band, which later became Wings. And so that was one of the most exciting experiences for me. But I saw many, many other performers there.
Yes.
And, you know, one of the performances that made one of the biggest impressions was I saw Sonny Terry and Brownie McGee, who are part of the blues history.
Okay.
Yeah, but Sonny Terry and Brownie McGee come out of the early 1950s, I think. And they were this duo that had come out of America and gone to Europe because the opportunities were better for them in France and so on.
Yes, a lot of African Americans.
You know, they have many recordings, and they have a very interesting history and made a huge contribution. So I saw them perform just on a stage, one playing the harmonica, one playing the guitar, but with huge personality and playing the blues, to the point where the students were all standing on their chairs and stomping their feet. And I think why I was so impressed was because this wasn't rock and roll amplified,
electric guitars and everything.
These were just two men with one acoustic guitar and a harmonica, and they had the crowd, eating out of their hands. And I thought, this is the way to entertain. And so, I learned a lot from all of those people.
Yes.
I saw Donovan as well. You remember Donovan Leach? He was part of that era of the Beatles. He sang, They Call Me Mellow Yellow, that's right. Remember? And he wrote... anyway, Donovan Leach was a folk singer who was they labelled him as England's Bob Dylan.
Oh, okay.
I saw him at Leeds, and he came with just an acoustic guitar, sat on a large pillow on the stage, and also entertained 500 students for an hour and a half.
That's it?
That's it.
No backing vocals?
Nothing. So, so that, I thought, these were real entertainers, telling fabulous stories and singing their songs. Some of the songs, of course, I was familiar with and could play myself. But then there were other groups. There was a group called Osibisa. I don't know if you've heard of them.
Oh, Osibisa. We used to call them Osibisa.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
They came.
Yeah.
They came.
Yeah.
I saw, 10 years after, I saw, now I must think, Jethro Tull, of course, they came to play. And Colin Blunston was there. He was a wonderful singer. Anyway, every weekend there was another top act.
And so you discovered, did you start playing the guitar in Leeds, or did you ever play it in South Africa?
No, I started learning to play the guitar when I was 11. Mm-hmm. And then as a teenager, I was part of a band. And we copied songs like the Rolling Stones and Beatles songs, and we played a few times at dances, and so I was an aspirant young rock and roller, let's say that.
Oh, wonderful. And you know what? I really enjoy these conversations because, I uncover all these hidden gems about people, and it's so amazing to see the different colors of you and how you came into being who you are today. And it's amazing how these experiences sort of pepper your mind, and, there's just awaken different aspects of you that you lean more into who you are. And you came back ready and well honed,
yes,
to be
so I came back
a composer,
yes,
a lyricist,
yes,
and a musician.
Yes, I'd written some of my own songs and had honed my performance, approach. So when I arrived back in South Africa.
And you came here which year?
1974.
Okay, so it was 4 magical years.
I was 3 years in England.
Oh, yeah, 71.
Yeah.
So it's 3 magical years.
Yes.
3 years, and all that happened within that time.
Yes.
That's amazing.
Yes.
That is amazing.
No, it was amazing. So an enormous impact on my life.
Exactly. That's what I'm thinking now. I'm reflecting and thinking those 3 years changed you completely.
Yes. And I had the opportunity to see theatre, although I wasn't interested in theatre at that time.
Right.
It was just, there were so many things to do.
Yes.
As you know, you were asking me what it was like when I arrived. Suddenly, there were, everything was restricted and banned in South Africa. Anything, that could influence your mind politically or any kind of sexual references or anything like that, it was all banned. So, of course, as a young man, I went to see every banned film that I could find and read every banned book that I could read. And I joined all sorts of societies. And
these societies were like underground?
No, just student societies. Like, for instance, the African Society, I joined that, and I met all these people from different countries in Africa. Some of the political, like there were people from Zimbabwe and Zambia. My friends, I've made very good friends with people from Zambia. So there were students from all over Africa, and we had a society, so we could connect. That was one, there were many things that you could do, like a theatre society or a film society. I joined those, so I could see things, and I went out every night. And neglected my studies.
I think we've established that you don't really like the studying bit. You're just gifted with a very good mind, but you don't really like the studying bit.
Yes.
And I remember you said you didn't like maths, but you were good in maths. And then I said, but David, the maths helps with your music.
Yes. No, it did. Not that I didn't like maths. I found maths quite easy.
Lucky you.
Yes. So this is the thing. I didn't really study very hard. I wasn't much of a student, but I managed to get by. And the same thing at university. I went to university thinking, I'll read a few pages before I go. Anyway, I went to the first exams and I failed everything at university, my first term, or whenever I had to write the exams. And then I suddenly realized I better pull up my socks, because if they're not going to let me stay here. They'll say, come home. We're not wasting our money on you.
100%.
Yeah, that was a
wake-up call.
First time in my life I'd ever failed anything. That was the first time. As I say, the school was relatively easy, and I didn't bother with it. Didn't matter to me. I educated myself in the library, in the town library. That's where I got my education. But anyway, then I applied myself, and then I passed the first year, and I was able to stay for the full 3 years at the university.
So you came back, and what did you do? Okay, yes, you said you had all these other spaces that you went into. What made you really think about a career in the world of the arts, like putting your productions together and making them into a musical? When was that turning point?
Okay, so firstly, I had to go back to the textile factory, and I had to do that for 3 years. Then we were married, my wife and I, Rena. We got married, and we decided we wanted to get out of South Africa. The politics was awful, and we went to America, where my wife had some family, and we thought we would establish ourselves there. But on coming to America, I didn't like it very much. And I realized that I wanted to be a songwriter, and that if I was going to write my songs are rooted in my South African experience, so I had to come home. So we came back, and then I started performing in Cape Town, like a folk club and universities and so on, and my work was very different to everyone else's. And that's when I met Tully Peterson, 1974, at a concert at University of Cape Town.
So that was very soon after you got back that you met Tully?
Yes, I met him then.
Okay.
And he was a young singer, guitar player. Yeah, so we met, and so at least we knew each other, and over the years, I would bump into him. But 10 years later, in 1984. 1985, 86. Well, it was 1986. And we ran into each other at an exhibition of photographs about District 6. And we said, let's have coffee. And we sat talking, and it came up that he was keen on writing a musical, and I was also intending to write a musical about District 6, which is why I was at that exhibition. But I realized at the time that even if I wrote this musical as a white South African, let's inverted commas, it wouldn't be acceptable to the community that I should tell that story. And I realized that there was a huge advantage in having a brown partner. And so we saw that each of us had strengths, and which complemented each other. And we decided to explore writing a musical. We knew nothing about it. We just did it on instinct. We were songwriters and performers, but we weren't people from the theatre world. And we tackled that. In 1986, we wrote this musical. And then we took it to the Baxter that you were talking about, and they agreed to produce it. And it turned into this massive hit, which took us all by surprise. We thought we'd be there for, 4 or 5 weeks performing this musical. And then, whatever. I had no dreams or aspirations, but it overtook us. It was so big and so overwhelming, and, it ran for months and months and months, and eventually was seen by 350,000 people.
Wow.
Yeah.
Congratulations.
Yeah, it was a big thing. It's 350,000 people saw it here in South Africa.
Your very first attempt.
My very first musical.
Was a hit.
The biggest hit, probably.
Oh my goodness.
Yes.
Well done. And I guess that would say something to both of you, that your energy is working well together.
Yes.
And that you can do more together.
Yes. So then my wife, who is a producer, became a producer through the experience of District 6. The waterfront in Cape Town was just beginning. And someone we knew approached us and said they're going to open a restaurant in the waterfront, and they would want to have a small theatre there, and would my wife run the theatre for them, which we agreed to become partners in this new venture. And I said to them, I would like to write a show for this theatre which would run for a long time, because my frustration with Cape Town theatre was that you couldn't get long enough runs. You would have to go in for a few weeks and then leave and then come back again, maybe, if you had a success.
Yeah, and it's difficult to recover your costs.
Yes, yeah. Anyway, the thing is that it's not set up for long runs here.
Okay.
Like a West End, or, if you have a success and you just run for years. So my dream was to have a show that ran for years. And so we had a very small theatre there, just over 200 seats or whatever. But Talib and I wrote a new musical, almost a kind of a review musical called Fairyland, which was also about District 6. But it wasn't a political story. It was just a celebration of culture that you would have found in District 6. So that's what we explored, all the aspects of District 6 music. And we put that on at the Dock Road Theatre in, when was that? 1990.
I know the Dock Road Theatre. I didn't even know you had a connection with it. I didn't know your wife was the first, manager of the theatre. Every time I pass there now.
But we were there long before you arrived, I would think.
Exactly. Yeah. So I drive past it, but I'm just saying that now the history of it becomes alive for me.
Yes. So we were there from 90 until 96, I think. We wrote Fairyland, and it was a huge success as well. and it ran for 3.5 years. Over 1,500 performances.
Oh my God.
Yes.
I'm sitting in the company of greatness, and I didn't even know this, but you're so humble, David. You're so approachable, and I celebrate you for that. And that's what I like about this opportunity to present people, myself and other people on Wasafiri Africa, is because I come here to hear you, and I'm hoping that whoever's hearing also hears you and understands just what a wonderful continent we live in, and what wonderful things are happening here and have been done here that we should be celebrating more. Your plays should be... I've watched your plays, well, some of them, since I haven't watched all of them, and they can all translate in different parts of the continent. The story is understood. I'm not South African, and I watch your productions, and even Orpheus in Africa, the latest one, even Langam, I understand them, you know?
Yeah, Orpheus is more, would be understood by an international audience.
Yeah.
And I suppose I had that in mind to some extent. But a story like Langarm, which is very specific to the apartheid era, and, you know, it's a very much a Cape Town story. But it's a human story, and I suppose that's what you connect to.
That's exactly right, that it's a human story. All your stories are human stories. All of us can identify with people who have been oppressed or repressed, where color has been... you know, on the continent, we understand that because of colonization and now racism. We even have words for it these days.
International phenomenon.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so I think they would translate anywhere. But, you know, I interrupted you. So after that, you know, after your success of 3 years, what came next?
So we continued. Talib and I now were, you know, we were very successful. We just it's such good luck, and of course we made quite a lot of money, and what we did was invest in our own productions.
Well done.
So we were never restricted or limited by waiting for money to do the next production. So we could keep on writing and doing, which was lovely. We did another musical called Poison, which was about the gangsters and the selling of drugs on the Cape Flats. It was a huge problem. I mean, still is a huge problem. It still is. But at that time, it was mandrax, and there were gang wars in the streets and in Woodstock and so on. But so we decided to turn that into a musical, that story, and I used Othello as a sort of template. Who has Iago is like one of the drug pushers who works for him and betrays him and sets up his jealousy. Oh, anyway, I used that.
No, but I can understand that really well. We watched, I think, Lara Foot's interpretation of Othello. I think it was last year.
Yes.
Incredible. It was incredible at the backstand. Now, when you mention as Iago using drugs...
And gangsters.
Oh, yes.
So Othello is a drug lord, and Iago is one of his pushers who wants to be the captain, you know, wants to be and doesn't get the job, and then turns against him. So anyway, that was a great template for the musical, and Talib and I wrote some very nice songs. And while it was being performed at the Baxter in '93, a Malaysian millionaire came along and saw it and thought, this is wonderful. It's just like a West End musical. But he loved the idea, and it was brown people on the stage, and he thought this would work in Malaysia. And he approached us and took us to Malaysia. And we performed in Kuala Lumpur. So that was our first sort of international success. It wasn't such a big success here in South Africa. It also eventually got to be done in London, and I adapted it as a London setting. That was years later.
Can you imagine you now thinking back right now, the young man who showed up in Leeds, right?
Yes.
then discovered his love for music. That became such a passion that when you came home, you still were pursuing ways of doing that. You go back to the UK with a production of your own.
I get to the West. We take Cat and the Kings, which you saw later, but which we wrote in 1995 at Dock Road. The Dock Road. That was one of the last productions. And we do that, and that gets invited to London to a small theatre called the Tricycle Theatre, and we go there. That's our first time in London, and immediately it gets noticed, and within days I have West End producers sitting with Talib and I saying, we want to take you to the West End, and I'm saying, please,
It's a wonderful production. I watched it, so my children love it.
But it's not the typical West End show. It's a story, set very much in Cape Town, and I didn't even think that the humour would translate. I had no expectations. I really was surprised from the first time we performed it in London, and then to be invited to go to the West End was beyond comprehension for me. Anyway, we got to the West End, and we won the best musical of the year in at that point. When was that? Late 80s. No, late 90s.
Late 90s.
Yeah, late 90s.
Yeah. You won a Laurence Olivier Award.
Then we won the Laurence Olivier.
Yes, I know, because I saw it on the program and I was like, wow.
For the best new musical.
Yes.
And you know who we beat in that year?
Who?
I beat Andrew Lloyd Webber. Yeah.
No!
Yeah, he had a musical called Whistle Down the Wind.
Okay.
Which wasn't a big success for him.
No, I actually don't know of it.
No, I don't know. We also beat the Bee Gees. Saturday Night Fever, we beat that production.
Okay, now listen, wait. Staying Alive.
Yes, there was a musical called Saturday Night Fever.
Yes. Yeah, we watched it. I think I watched the film. But what I'm thinking now is, I'm actually, I'm so excited right here in my seat. I'm thinking, I love this continent. The people here are so gifted. We're so underrated. Okay, maybe now people are beginning to realize that. But when I think of you and Talib in the 90s, doing this as, men who have gone there with their passion, with not a lot of expectation, but just really excited to be in the moment and doing that, and then being rewarded in this way. And, but we hear about, the Grammys today. We hear about Tonys and that sort of thing, and people winning. But you're trailblazers, really. That's what you are.
It hadn't happened before.
Yes.
Yeah. So it's yes. Then of course Broadway came, and Broadway came to watch it in London. We beat Rent as well. When the Oliviers were announced and they said the best new musical.
Right.
I wasn't there, but my friends were there, and they said you could see the people from Rent getting ready to stand up and accept the best musical award, because they were huge on Broadway.
Yeah, Rent is a big musical.
And I love it. It's a great musical.
I actually, it's old to say this, but I do have the CD of Rent, because I love. I mean, the title song is amazing.
No, they would love beautiful piece of work.
Yeah.
Anyway, and they would have been very deservedly if they'd won. I mean, but anyway, so those were the big musicals of 1988, 89, whenever it was.
Wow.
And so it was Cat and the Kings, it was Whistle Down the Wind, it was Saturday Night Fever, and it was Rent, and maybe there was another, I don't know. But those were the four up for nomination, and we won it.
Can I high five you?
And then we got invited to Broadway. Another producer decided to take us there, and we went on to Broadway. But unfortunately, our lead actor, who played the old man, old Cut, he died from cancer.
Oh.
And so we didn't have the team that we had in London. And he was an integral part.
Yes.
He really, it was his story that I was telling.
It is, yeah.
It was the old man's story that gets remembered through his younger self. Anyway, but we were on Broadway for 6 months. We were two Tony nominations, which we didn't win. But we were there for 6 months, but it never took off on Broadway like it did in England. And I think for various reasons that we won't go into. But the fact that we didn't close within 2 or 3 days, was we didn't have that embarrassment.
Can I tell you a secret? So when I watched Cat and the Kings, and because at that time in my life, there were people in my life who are attached to the Public Theatre in New York. And you know how they do Shakespeare in the Park every year. So I was so keen to take this show, Cat and the Kings, to a little theatre in New York. And I shared it with someone. And I was so sure, because of your previous history, that the time had come, that now you would have the right kind of audience in the States to appreciate Cat and the Kings. And I really think it would be appreciated. And I hope that somebody someday will take that production to the States.
Yes, look, the time has come now to revive it, I think, and I'm hoping that maybe this year or next year we might do a revival production, and with it, and let's see what happens with that.
Oh, David,
no, because it's a very it works everywhere. We had Japanese fans. I mean, when the boys were in London, these young Japanese women, teenagers, I suppose, became fanatical. And they followed them all over the world. They would pitch up in New York and be in the front row in New York, or they would be playing in Germany, or they would pitch up there.
It's such a wonderful story. I'm thinking about that, and this is a separate conversation for you and I, but if you really are thinking about reviving it, I think there's possibly a couple of people I'd like to share their names with you in Kenya, because I think it's the sort of play that would really attract the audience in Kenya, especially the younger people. They would understand it. They're very well read. They're very, these days with the internet, everybody understands. But just to see that history and understand it in that musical frame and the storytelling, it's just an incredible, incredible story. I love it. Love it, love it, love it.
Thank you.
And so, was that the last production with Talib Peterson?
No, Guma was the last production.
Okay.
Which we did in 2006.
Okay.
Yeah.
Was that just before I arrived then? Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so I think we might have started that in 2005. And we had a lot of success with that one in South Africa, but it very much a story about the origins of Cape culture.
Okay.
And Afrikaans language out of the mouths of slaves. So we wanted to investigate slavery in the Cape and to inform people in Cape Town who really knew nothing about slavery and to put on a show that would again highlight the enormous contribution that was made by people who were brought here. And the Creole culture of the Cape. The fact that we find this now in our architecture and our cuisine, but particularly in our music and our language, Afrikaans. So that was the point of Guma. Guma is a word for this drum and the music that we make here, but it's probably, you might in Kenya have a similar word like Guma.
Well, I'm thinking, I'm not familiar with this particular production, but I'm thinking the word guma, the closest it can be is goma. Goma is like a Kiswahili word for making music, dancing.
Yes, well, it's that.
Okay.
And I think it comes from that.
Yeah, because ngoma, N-G-O-M-A, so it's making music and dance and that sort of thing.
And so that would have been, again, because there were people who came from the east coast of Africa who, were brought here as slaves as well, Madagascar and so on. So that Swahili word would have become guma in our Creole language.
This is so cool. I didn't even. So where is that production? Because I didn't even know about it until today. Where is it in the mix of your thoughts? Where is it? Is it ever going to show up again for us?
I don't know. I'm running out of time.
No, don't say that.
No, but it's a lovely... Anyway, it would be nice if we could do it again at some point. It's a very educational musical. And I must see if I've got a DVD of it. So I'll let you have a look at it.
I'd like to.
Yeah, it's mainly in Afrikaans, yeah. But then we took it to London. So we went to London in 2006 and we called it the Spice Drum Beat. And I think we did it in English with the Afrikaans songs. So made it easy for the audiences there. And we opened in 2006 on the Wednesday evening, and then on the Thursday morning, Talib flew back to Cape Town, and he was murdered on the Saturday. So that's the last time I saw him. Was at the opening of Guma in London. Yeah.
I'm so sorry for your loss even now, because that was he was like a brother to you.
Yes, very much so, very much so.
I'm so sorry. And then you continued writing or exploring stories that to do with the Cape here.
Yes.
And is that how Orpheus in Africa came into mind?
Yes, I'm interested in forgotten history, or let's say suppressed history, which is, again, comes out of my childhood experience when I started to realize how much was suppressed. And certainly any kind of black contribution was never acknowledged, as it is in America. So one day I was paging through a book, and I saw this photograph of a company of African Americans dressed in Victorian clothing, top hats, and I thought, what is this? It's strange. Cape Town, 1890. So it says in 1890, the Virginia Jubilee Singers and Concert Company visited Cape Town. So I had to find out more about this. And so I started to research that, and I was so taken with the story of this young man, Orpheus McAdoo. He was 32 years old, had formed his own company of Jubilee singers, and had gone to England and was intending to travel around there, and then got invited to come to Cape Town by the governor and the governor's wife, Lady Loch, brought them here. And they were enormous success in Cape Town. And they decided to stay on and then travel around the Cape Colony to huge. I mean, they were a huge success. And it was strange, they were like the Black Beatles of the 1890s.
And the thing is that when I watched that production, I was like, we never heard of it, even in our history. And when I was growing up, the kind of history we learned in Kenya, we learned history of Africa. So we learned different things. And I was just so fascinated that even in my theater studies, there was never any mention of this man and his group.
Never mentioned, ever. Just that photograph in a history of Cape Town. And he just, this happened in 1890, and that was it. But then, luckily, I was able to find some academic papers on him, and two experts I spoke to who had done research on him, and he was just outstanding. A huge success, and that they toured South Africa for 2 years, and then they went to Australia and New Zealand, and they toured there for another 2 or 3 years, and then came back to South Africa. And by the time they came back, things were starting to change. But we won't go there. But anyway, what a phenomenon, and of which we know nothing. And so I felt I had to tell the story,
and it was. Do it.
Yeah, and it was lovely. It's musical. It's got they sing, and they just sing these beautiful old songs which we know, the spirituals, which they call jubilees, things like Amazing Grace and Go Down Moses and oh my goodness, so many. Roll Jordan Roll. Well, these are beautiful songs.
And I think that for having watched it twice now, I think for me, because I watched the one in the Fugard and then I watched it at the Artscape
10 years later.
Yes. And
you will get an opportunity to watch later this year.
Oh, wonderful.
I'm doing it again.
Oh, no, I love it. And because of the bigger theatre at the Artscape, you had done a little bit more.
Yes.
And but it's so powerful. But the people playing Orpheus and his wife, they're always so right. And his brother this year, you can see the emotional turmoil that young man is going through and the confusion that he's going through.
He'll go through more this time.
Oh, I love
There'll
it.
be more conflict this time. And the thing you must tell your audience is that we did it with the Cape Town Opera Company. There are these wonderful singers.
Oh, my goodness.
And this was what the pleasure for me was that I had a company of opera singers and musical performers, but they could sing these songs, the way they're supposed to be sung. So that was a pleasure. And I mean, we have this young woman, Brittany Smith, who plays Mattie, and she's just fantastic.
I ain't ready to sing Italian songs. I'm a dancer, not a diva, but you've known that all along. I ain't ready, even though I've tried my best. I ain't ready to be told I failed his test. For me to sing a song, I need to feel the words. They need to come from deep within to make me wanna sing. Oh, I love you, darling.
What a voice.
What a voice.
And again, I don't know if your listeners know that I think we are the only black opera company in Africa. A permanent opera company in Africa, the Cape Town Opera Company.
I didn't know that, but I'm not surprised because I know that opera is something that has to be nurtured.
Yes.
And it also requires, it's like I was watching Handel's Messiah. You don't say watching. I went to hear the Cape Philharmonia Choir and the Cape Philharmonic Orchestra in the recitals of Handel's Messiah. And you're reminded of the expense of this, to keep the orchestra going, to keep the choir going. It's a massive
and
expense.
And it's not funded by the government. It's funded by just philanthropists.
So I'm not surprised that the Cape Opera Company would be unique to South Africa. I'm not. And it's unique to Cape Town, isn't it?
Yes. There isn't one in Johannesburg. Yeah.
So, wow. Well, I'm excited about later. You said this year, Orpheus later this year.
Yeah, in October, November this year we'll do it. A limited run again. And, and having had the opportunity of seeing it last year with the opera company, I've been able to make a few adjustments, small adjustments, to certain relationships within, and seeing where I thought, it needs a little bit more conflict, and so I'm hoping that what I've done now is small improvements. It'll look pretty much like the previous production, and we're hoping that this is my final
tweak, your final
my
tweak,
final opportunity, and I think that the opera company would very much like to get this overseas to Europe or somewhere like that. So, being a local story, rather than taking Porgy and Bess, which they've done in the past.
Yeah, I have watched that too, and they do it very well.
Yes, they do.
The Cape Opera Company is amazing. It is good to start taking our stories, or stories to do with this continent. We've been we've participated in sharing the world's stories. It's time to share our stories as well, because we do that so well. Whether it's in music or theater or film, we really do it very well. And so it's really it's important for us to own that, and own that our gifts are inherent within us, can tell our stories. I want to just circle back a little bit to Cat and the Kings. Mm-hmm. It's a darling of mine. So I'm going to take that liberty and say, because you keep saying, oh, I'm finishing off, and I don't like what you're saying. I'm just saying that for the record. I don't like what you're saying. Would you consider, would you think about reviving that production? Because I think it's the sort of production that could travel as well.
Absolutely. It certainly can travel, and it has traveled. Everywhere it's gone, it's been very popular. So yes, I would love to have a revival of that, and I'd like to apply a lot of what I've learned over the years to a new production. And of course, we're now dealing with another generation of actors who are also so much more experienced and educated. When I started in the 80s, it was so hard to find a brown or black performer. There was no universe. If there had been, there were a handful of people who were trained as actors.
Right.
And then, you had 5 or 6, and they were not necessarily suitable for what you were looking for. Yeah. So...
And probably they didn't have the range of skill to translate their acting ability
into musicals. So the musical, you need someone who can act and sing very
and
well,
dance
and dance. So what they call the triple threat. So we didn't have that. So what we had to do was find talented singers and train them ourselves. That's what we did. That's what happened with District 6. Now, today, there's training, and they're coming out of the colleges and universities, and people have gone into this because they've seen these productions and they've been encouraged. And I can tell you so many stories of young people who said to me, when I was a teenager, I saw Cat and the Kings, and I thought, that's what I want to do. And that's happened.
And that's amazing. That's amazing. Then, you know what, David? Every time I see you wear hats.
Yes.
This beautiful black hats.
Yes.
They're always black. Maybe your band is different.
Just this one.
Is it the same one?
No, this is, look, I've got another one, which is a black pork pie.
A black who?
Pork pie. It's an American jazz hat. Okay. So people who've heard... It's a little flat black hat. This one is more like a fedora or something. I don't know that I'm wearing it today. But anyway, yes, it's become associated with me, the little black hat.
When did you start wearing your little black hat? I'm using air quotes.
20 years ago, I suppose. But look, I'm not bald.
No, you're not.
No, I'm not bald, but... when I started out as a young man, I had black hair, and I decided to wear my hair with a middle parting, like greased hair with a middle parting, a very old-fashioned... in those days, all the singers had long hair, like hippies. And I thought, I'm not going to look like that. I've got to look. And I found this photograph of my father and my uncle and so on from the 1930s, and they had this hairstyle with a middle parting. And I thought, that's what I'll do. And I used to wear my hair like that. Of course, people thought I was mad. But they remembered me. He's the guy with that silly haircut and the red shoes. I wore red shoes. Anyway, so I established a sort of a brand. I wasn't trying to, but I did. And I became famous because I was in advertisements on the television in the 1980s for the Volkswagen microbus. And so I became nationally famous as the guy, with the red shoes and the middle parting and a bicycle that I used to ride around on. But eventually, I got tired of the hairstyle and keeping it, and I started to wear the hat. I've always loved hats. And then I started to wear this black pork pie, and that has become the way I'm recognized today.
Oh, it suits you. It suits you very well. It really does. Now, there are certain things that I like to find out and share on how people's perspectives of the continent influence their work. When you think, now you've already told us how, apartheid and how, racism, all that has influenced your work. But when you look at the continent now, what is the one thing that you think would, from your perspective, make the continent even richer, easier for everyone who lives here? What do you think you would like to see in your lifetime?
Well, what I'd like to see is much more connection. I personally, I am ashamed to say that I've hardly traveled in Africa. I've been to Mozambique and I've been to Namibia, and that's it. I've never been to your country or anywhere else. But I've been to many European countries and to the American and the East and so on. So it seems a pity to me that we don't have more connection with people in other countries who do similar things. Maybe business people are doing more connecting, but like in the arts, I don't know anyone outside of this country in Africa. And I think that we certainly could improve on that, and that there could be more exchange of productions and talent.
Yeah, I think to hear you say that you don't know anyone outside this country means they don't know of you too, David.
That's right.
And that makes me sad, because when we hear of your exploits, we know that you have achieved a great deal, not only in your own eyes, but in the eyes of people who look at this as a serious way of living. It's a craft. It's a gifting that you've taken and you've maximized and reached its full potential on the global stage, the competitive global stage. So if you don't know of them, they don't know of you, and that saddens me. It amplifies that need for connection, that need for collaboration, and I'm hoping that is something that can start really happening, and hopefully, because your productions, they will translate, David. Yes, they will translate.
And I'd like to add is that the important thing is, I think we all, because of history, have suffered a sort of inferiority complex here, that we aren't as good as, the stuff from overseas. And the work that Talib and I did, disproved that. And the other fact is that we took young people from disadvantaged backgrounds and turned them into Olivia Award-winning performers. I mean, we took on the best in the world and we won. With disadvantaged kids from the Cape Flats. And it can be done. And imagine, we've got... So imagine we start to collaborate. What I'm trying to say is that people who might be listening in Kenya, we can do this, and you have to believe that it can be done, and that we do have the talent, but often we don't have the connections or the opportunities. I was lucky a door opened for me, and I was ready to walk through that door.
I think there are a lot of young people who are ready to walk through that door, and I think that even if they don't perform your work, there's a lot that you can teach them on how to put up a production, on how to compose, on how to write, to be a lyricist, on how to bring all those things together into a successful theatre production. So, having not traveled mostly outside Southern Africa, when it comes to food, African food, what do you like to eat? What would you say are your favorite foods? Maybe one or two.
Well, my knowledge of course, is Cape food.
Yes, that's fine.
Cape. I love the Cape food and the curries. I really do like the Malay-styled curries, the biryanis, and that's
boboties.
baboti, and I love that. I love that style, and and we barbecue the meat, which we call braaiing, and I've always enjoyed that, and also pride myself in being able to do that quite well. Cook the meat on the fire. Yeah, so that's what I...
I know that you were originally influenced a lot by the musicians who came to Leeds, and then your resultant exposure to other musicians. But is there maybe a South African musician who also, you enjoy listening to their music, or maybe Southern Africa? Did you like African music? Are you exposed to it?
Yes, I am. I'm strange in a way that I'm not someone who really collects or buys other people's music. When I listen to music, it's usually for research purposes. So I'm not a kind of a fanatical music collector or listener. So I come across people, and now I wouldn't always the names I can't come to, but there's a musician from Zimbabwe, Oliver
Mtukudzi.
Yeah, he's great.
Oliver Mtukudzi.
I've been on the same stage with him. He's great, and people like that, and other local. At the time of Paul Simon, we won't even have time to go there.
Lady Smith, Mambazo.
Yeah. So there were those guys, and Joseph Shabalala, and so on. So yes, I listen to a wide variety of music, and I love the African guitar sound and those kind of rhythms, and I try and incorporate that where I can.
When you say African guitar sounds, for me, Jimmy Tlutlu is like,
great.
Fantastic. It's fantastic.
Yeah.
No, this is absolutely amazing. I think it's been such a pleasure to talk to you, David. I'm so excited about what you have done. I'm so excited about what you have shared with us today. And I just want to say you are not done yet. And
I hope not.
No, you're not.
My health is not great, but I'm glad to be able to get up in the mornings and continue. And I'm so busy at the moment. I think I have a sense of, my age and because of health problems, I must do as much as I can.
You must do as much as you can, and I hope that we can also broaden your circle, because I think that even when you're not doing your own work, you still have a lot to offer to those who can learn at your feet.
Yes.
Thank you so much, David Kramer.
Thank you.
And all the best. God bless.
It was lovely to chat to you.
Thank you. And in celebration of Cat and the Kings, here's one of my favorite songs from the show. Lonely Girl. Twendeni, Africa is ready.
If you're lonely, girl, why don't you please just phone me, girl? I sit here waiting and hoping to hear from you. Don't you know I'm lonely too? I'm this lonely guy. I talk to no one, I'm too shy. You are the reason I'm feeling the way that I do. Lonely girl, I'm lonely too. The night we met, I'll never forget the perfume. You look divine in red. I fell in love with you that night. The moment I saw you walking right through the door. I love you, girl, like no other guy has loved you, girl. And if I could hold you, then you these streets.